Guys, this has been on my mind for a minute now, and I get a lot of DMs like every single day almost that like, first of all, the most common DM I get is like, bro, can you send me an iPhone? Can you do this? Can you do that? I broke my phone. Can you buy? First of all, I've never ever in my life bought someone an iPhone because they DM'd me, okay? The only times I give away iPhones or when I do giveaways, I mean, you guys can still DM me if you want to. I'm here to listen. But it's just so funny. That's like the most common thing. But another common DM I've been getting from quite a few people actually is, why didn't the iPhone 6 get iOS 13? I almost dropped my iPhone. And I made several videos talking about the likelihood of it getting iOS 13, and I eventually said it wasn't. But some people brought up some really, really good points, and I kind of want to talk about them and discuss them in a way. And one of them are actually a pretty good reason as to why the iPhone 6 should have gotten iOS 13. But the main one I hear all the time is like, oh, the iPhone 6 and the 6S look the same, there's not too much difference, so Apple should have just supported it anyway. And to those people, I say, dude, the iPhone 6 and 6S, even though they look the same, they are completely different devices. And I'll do a little speed test here in a little bit if you guys even want to see it, but the iPhone 6 is so much slower than the iPhone 6S, and it really only has to do with the specs inside of the phone. They might look the same, they might whatever, feel the same. The iPhone 6S is just a much faster device. But what I will say is speed isn't really needed with iOS 13. In my opinion, I don't think iOS 13 is a resource heavy iOS or OS really anymore. People were thinking, including me, we were thinking that it was going to be a complete redesign, everything's going to be changed, all this stuff. But all of the changes that happened within iOS 13 aren't crazy. Like, they're not resource heavy. It doesn't need a lot of RAM really, in my opinion. Even though it kind of does, don't get me wrong. I would always prefer a faster phone than not, but the features that were brought into iOS 13 aren't like features that we haven't seen on like third-party apps or anything, and things you couldn't get from a jailbreak. So in my opinion, that was kind of weird. Another common one I see is that the iPhone 5S came out a year before. Now this is the SE, I don't even know where my iPhone. People were saying that because the iPhone 5S came out a year before and it stopped at the same time as the iPhone 6, that it was kind of a ripoff. Like, the iPhone 6 is a newer phone, so the iPhone 5S should have stopped at iOS 12, but the 6 should have kept going. And to those people, I also say the iPhone 5S got lucky in the sense that it got an extra version of iOS that it wasn't supposed to be getting, really. Apple just kind of had to push it because iOS 11 wasn't really good at all. So Apple pushed iOS 12 onto those devices. So in a sense, it's not like the 6 stopping at the same time. It was the 5S getting an extra version of iOS. So in a sense, it's good. In another sense, it's kind of bad. And I see how it's your viewpoint that you guys all have, but I'm glad the iPhone 5S stopped at iOS 12 and not iOS 11. Now, this next one is the one that kind of gets to me the most. And I was thinking even about making a whole separate video talking about this specific thing that a viewer actually brought up. And it's a really, really good point. And basically, it's all about this notion that all the devices running less than an Apple A9 chip, those are not supported anymore with iOS 13. So, and that makes sense because the iPhone 6 has an A8 chip, the 5S has an A7 chip, and all those other devices have Apple A8 chips or less than them. So they're not going to be supporting iOS anymore on those. But think about it like this. Some people looked at the device list and they saw that the iPad mini 4 is getting iOS 13 and it's getting the betas right now. But that device has an Apple A8 chip. So it's not necessarily the Apple A8 chip devices that are not supported, which is weird because the iPad mini 4 is supported. So if the A8 chip on that is supported, why couldn't Apple support the iPhone 6? And that's a really, really good point. And that's one of the best points anybody has ever made for this specific case. And what I will tell you is that in a way, yes, that is true. The iPad mini 4 does have the Apple A8 chip, but the other thing that the iPad mini 4 has is an extra gig of RAM that the iPhone 6 does not have. The iPhone 6 has 1 gig of RAM, where the iPad mini 4 has 2 gigs of RAM. And that in and of itself is a pretty good reason, in my opinion, as to justify why the iPad mini 4 is getting iOS 13. If this phone had 2 gigs, then maybe this one would have been supported as well. But because of that, I don't think Apple wanted to put a bunch of features on a device that maybe it would have slowed it down. But also, in my opinion, like I said, like iOS 13 isn't a crazy redesign. It did bring a lot of stuff, don't get me wrong, but it's not like it's resource heavy. It's not like there's a bunch of things running in the background. In my experience and from what I'm seeing so far, it's actually using less resources than iOS 12 because it's going to minimize the amount of background processes that you have running. So in my opinion, once the official version comes out, iOS 13 could potentially be faster than iOS 12. And even for an older device, it would have maybe been better, but I think that iPad mini 4 example was probably the best case. But like I said, that can be refuted because of the RAM. But in my opinion, should the iPhone 6 have gotten iOS 13? realistically, no, I knew Apple was not going to support it because of the specs inside of this phone. But looking at it now, knowing what iOS 13 is, I think Apple should have supported the iPhone 6 with iOS 13. And the reason I say that is because before I thought, and many other people thought, it was going to be a pretty big redesign. I just dropped my phone. We thought it was going to be a huge, crazy thing, split screen, multitasking, all these different things, picture in picture. We thought that's what it was going to be, but it turns out not to be that case. And iOS 13 brought a lot of cool features, but they're not resource heavy, like I said. So looking at it now, I think the iPhone 6 should have been supported with iOS 12, especially if they already supported another A8 Apple chip. But also, I see why Apple didn't, and that's my opinion, I think that's what it is, but you might have a different opinion. Let me know in the comment section below what you guys think, though. Do you think the iPhone 6 should have gotten iOS 13? I'd love to know what you guys have to say, but that is pretty much it. Leave some other things down in the comment section below. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. Hit that like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. Every single subscriber that we get really does count, so it means so much you guys can hit that. Also, check out the other links down in the description as well. My Twitter, my Instagram, my second channel. All those links are linked down below. I would really appreciate it if you guys could check it out. But more importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.